Delaney. Off the corner. Not there. And now for a CBS News special report, let's go to Dan Rather in New York.
And from CBS News World Headquarters in New York, we take you directly live to Baghdad. The fiercest anti-aircraft fire of the day. Obviously, the Iraqis believe that an attack is underway. Attacks have been in the far distance for about the last 30 to 45 minutes. An official in Washington has said there's obviously a big hit and another. We're seeing this today from multiple cameras in various places around Baghdad. And we also have some satellite photographs of the city in general, which we may show you later. By far the heaviest attacks on Baghdad yet. This is the third series of attacks. No question, this is the heaviest yet. As a fireball rises. The story of this hour, the biggest rage yet being rained on Baghdad. Escalation of the aerial campaign is obvious, but it may not be as intense as originally planned, because U.S. officials are known to be in surrender talks with senior Iraqi authorities. And these deeds of carnage could be read as one way of trying to move those negotiations along. We're letting this play as sounds and sights because in many important ways the picture and the sound speak for themselves. U.S. officials have been saying that America's commanding General Tommy Franks would, quote, scale the intensity of the bombardment in accordance with progress in the surrender talks. Taking that literally, it would say that the surrender talks have not been going particularly well in recent hours, and there is the fact that U.S. forces in the field have met some strong resistance in the last 12, 15 hours. Cruise missiles, some of them air-launched, can be reasonably assumed to have had a part in this. Tomahawk cruise missiles fired from the sea can also reasonably be deduced as involved in a raid of this magnitude. And while we do not know so for a fact, B-52s took off this morning. They may or may not be involved in this. B-52s carry so-called smart bombs, laser-guided bombs, as well as some others. And then there's the F-17 stealth bomber, which operates almost exclusively at night and was involved in the previous 2 attacks on Baghdad. And as the hands of the Sisters of Death and Night move incessantly over Baghdad, we bring in CBS News national security correspondent David Martin from the Pentagon. David, this is unquestionably and by far the biggest in the now 3 series of raids on Baghdad.
Dan, this is the much advertised shock and awe, the campaign that is supposed to not so much destroy Iraq as to destroy the will of Iraq's leaders to resist. And this is really a moment of truth for the Iraqi leadership, because what the U.S. is saying here is this is what's going to happen if you don't surrender. And we've been watching this, what, for 5 or 10 minutes. The U.S. has the capability to keep this up around the clock, and I'm sure that is exactly what is being said in these surrender talks. Notice how the lights are still on in this picture. These strikes are not the normal type of strikes that you conduct when you're trying to take down a society's center of gravity so that it can no longer fight. These strikes are going after leadership posts in an attempt to convince the leadership that they just have no other choice but to give in. It's sort of saying, you thought Saddam Hussein was bad, we can be worse, whose side are you on?
It's just after 9 p.m. Baghdad time. General Joe Ralston, yes, these are in many ways, quote, precision weapons that are being rained on Baghdad. But as you look and listen to the largeness of this attack, and as yet another great dark plume of smoke against the former drapery of Baghdad, realistically, what will be the effect on the civilian population of these raids?
Well, I think you're seeing great efforts taken here to minimize the impact on the civilians. For example, you still see the lights on. I'm not saying they're going to stay on forever, but that's one of the things. There's no intent to punish the Iraqi people. Instead, you want to go after the command and control bunkers, those places where Saddam and his leadership could be. And that's what you're seeing, is intense bombardment from, I'm sure, a combination of cruise missiles as well as bombs, satellite-guided bombs, precision-guided bombs, to go after the leadership targets. They're not targeting in any way the Iraqi people.
Without challenging that in any way, let me pass along from an independent journalist witness for Reuters, who says that fires are now raging in an Iraqi residential complex after the missile strikes. My question is that while we talk of surgical strikes, precision strikes, the record shows that there's no way to do it and not have something less than perfection.
Absolutely agree with that. And the U.S. military has never advertised perfection. You are going to have a certain percentage of even the most reliable bombs that we have got that, in fact, are not going to perform the way they're supposed to. You try to keep that to an absolute minimum. And sometimes accidents happen. There's no question about that. It's one of the unfortunate aspects of any war. And that's why we always want to go to war as an absolute last resort.
We go to David Chater from Sky News out of Britain, affiliated with CBS News. David Chater is reporting live in Baghdad. He's reporting to his home base in London. Let's pick it up.
A pall of smoke hanging all around the city at the moment. A lot of fires burning. An extraordinary scene at the moment. It was a bit of a lull, but that's, I think the citizens now of Baghdad know exactly what the Pentagon means by shock and awe. A huge, intense barrage of missiles and bombs aimed at the heart of the city to dislodge, dislocate, and paralyze the command and control structures. I'm getting a lot of interference on this radio. It's very difficult to communicate with you. I hope you can still hear me. Can you hear me, Jeremy?
We can still hear you, David, so keep going if you can.
Pounders, I would have thought. Much larger explosions than last time. Huge shock waves coming through the balcony and the open doors where I'm standing. I have no idea if you can hear me. Can you still hear me? A very large blast, very close to us.
I can still hear you.